So Brenda, your organization is all about creating and managing a community while connecting people in women's sports. And so with the launch of the Fan Project, I'm really curious to know, how do you see this new community-based monetization model that we outlined in the Fan Project really impacting the SheIS community?
Great question. I think the biggest impact for us is the data that supplies us with the actual definition of a women's sports fan, being a fluid fan and being that data kind of technical person, which SheIS is all about. I mean, SheIS is I think that sets us apart from everybody else is that we're completely about the fan. You know, we're not into the organizations or the athletes. We share their stories and bring their stories, but we're trying to motivate the fan. And so for us to kind of get a bit more insight of the current fan and what motivates that fan. And I love the concept between the difference of we need to know your name, we need to know, how old you are and where you live, as compared to the things of what motivates you, what makes you join, what makes you be engaged. So for us to have that documentation of how we build our campaigns around it and how we reach out to impact that fan to get them to take action, I think is very vital to us.
Well, we talked a little bit earlier about, this report, in fact, it really confirms some of our instincts, those of us that have been in women's sports for some years. But, I'm curious, as you were reviewing the report, what was the most interesting or thought-provoking part of the report that really stood out to you?
That's, I think the most interesting part of it for us, and she is, and for myself, is because as I stated before, it's like a lot of this data, I would say that women have always known. And, we've always known that we've been ahead of the curve. We've always known that, we were in the digital world long before men's sports because we had no choice. It wasn't like as if we were these great, futuristic, insights of where we had to go. It was more like we were forced into it. And by being forced into it, we just adopted. So I think the greatest information or the newest information was quite unique that says that, we were kind of leaders without even knowing it. And it kind of goes back to the simplicity of all women's sports is that we're so innovative as to say, okay, we can't do this, we'll do this. And so when you kind of look at it and go, wow, we were brilliant in the fact of, looking into the future and just always finding a path. So it kind of gave us an insight of to say, we're ahead of the game. So let's not go back and try to reinvent the wheel, but let's go where we already are and continue. So I thought that was really quite foresight, looking into the future and saying, we're already there.
Love that. I love that. Yes, we are already here. We're ahead of the curve. So when you think about the adoption of this report and how it can really impact your business strategy moving forward, can you kind of share some thoughts with us and how you think you can use this report to drive business?
Well, I think we can use this report in a couple of ways. I think for us, it's for sponsors, it's a great ability to use the data that says, women support brands. I mean, it's a proven fact. And also the simple fact that over the years, a lot of sponsors that says, well, there's not a lot of viewership with women. There's not a lot of, buy-in. And these numbers say, no, wait, this is not true. It's just never been documented. Now here's the documentation. And I think, for us to put into sponsorship documents and, requests, it's like, here's the numbers that you've been looking for that, kind of goes with the assets we're selling. So I think that's the key for us.
Love that. One last thing for you. This report talks about the power of storytelling and understanding that, women's sports fans specifically, they want the whole story. We say storytelling is queen. They're not just interested in stats and, the scores, and they want some of that, but they want to know a little bit more about the people that are on the court, on the field, and what's going on with them as a whole person. So can you tell me, what are you guys planning to do, or how do you think this new athlete-driven content, I still call it like trend, if you will. How does that impact your area of business? How will that impact how you storytell?
So it's a great question, Megan, because SheIS has always been about storytelling with our campaigns, Women Worth Watching, and the cross-pollination of different sports to expose each other. And I had to laugh last night because I'm a huge hockey fan, and the NHL last night, before their game, had the NBA on with a specific player big basketball player, talking about his life and the hockey life and interacting. And I thought, it's so funny. I mean, they're trying to catch up to us now. It's kind of like trying to catch up to the women in the stories part of it. So I look at it as is that I think I think any person who's been involved in women's sports over all the years always knew that the storytelling was a key part of our lives. That women needed to feel like they belonged and made a difference, and storytelling is a huge part of it. I think for us is that in the future we have to be very careful that the storytelling doesn't become more than the sport.
Yes.
And it's so important, because all of a sudden when we find out we've always been storytelling, we've been storytelling as women, not just about sports, but about our entire lives in so many different ways. And it's always the fine line of walking between telling the story and the story becoming more than what we're actually doing. And I think so it's very important that as we move forward is that this is a concept of storytelling. It's something we believe in social issues and many different things. But the art of the professionalism, the skills, the keys of our sport that we choose to be in is so essential to the storytelling that the storytelling doesn't take over. I hope I'm making sense of that, but it's like, it's so important. One, storytelling has always been a part of our lives, but two, the storytelling is not about the hardship of our lives. It's about the phenomenal success that we've been able to accomplish to do what we want to do in the sport.
Absolutely. I always like to say, the game is the core. The game is the core, and the storytelling just amplifies it. But continue to amplify the game first through storytelling and engage more people with those stories.